So you now have a Google Home or Google Home Mini, but you want to be able to control all your devices that use a regular infrared remote control like this one, using it, such as, "Hey Google, TV on."
Yes, sir.
My TV's a little slow, but as you can see, it turned on the TV and also at the same time the surround sound system, so you can also stack the commands. "Hey Google, switch to Media Center."
Your wish is my command.
So this is 3 commands. It's switching the input on the TV over to the PC, switching the surround sound to PC input, and also turning on my Kodi Media Center app. This is all using this device, a Broadlink RM Pro, which they have a cheaper one called the RM3 Mini that will do the same thing. However, this one is also supposed to do radio frequency, which I have it to only get to work with one of my remotes. "Hey Google, downstairs lights on."
Aloha.
Which are these lights, controlled by a little radio frequency remote. Like if you can see that one there. The only catch is you have to go through an Android TV box. I have this one here, it's kind of hard to see. Set up as a server to send the commands to the Broadlink device, but I'll show you how to do that in this video. Okay, for this setup to work, you're going to need a Google device. I use the Google Home Mini, like this one from Walmart. The next thing is to transmit your IR signals like they came from a remote control. You can use this Broadlink device. Most people use the RM Mini 3, but I chose to go with this one. It costs a little more, but it does everything the Mini 3 does, plus also adds radio frequency functionality to it, although it only works with a few items. And to get the signal from the Google to the Broadlink, you have to run a server on an Android device. You can use a tablet, but since it'll need to be on all the time, I chose to go with an Android TV box, which I already had. It's just like this one here. For the software, you're going to need the eControl app for the Broadlink device. That can be found on Google Play under eControl. It's free. It works with their own device. The second part is to receive commands from the Google Home. You need to go to IFTTT and have an account there. If you already have a Google device, you're probably already familiar with that site. And the third part is you're going to need the RM plugin app. That's an Android app you can get on the Play Store that will run on your Android TV box server. That app is not free. It costs $4.99 on the Google Play Store. Another thing you will want is to get a free DNS account. I will explain that later why you will want this, but it is not necessary at this time. Okay, we're first going to start with the eControl app. That way we can test that our Broadlink device is working correctly and sending out the commands. You're going to need to have the eControl app and the RM plugin both installed on the Android TV box. However, to get started and program it, you can also install eControl on a phone or a tablet, something that's portable, and later on we can switch those settings over to your Android TV box. They have that built into the eControl app. So let's fire it up. Okay, you won't have any remotes in here yet because you just installed it. So you'll have a blank screen. You'll tap this plus to add your first remote. It says add remote. And it's probably going to be easier to just use user defined here for the remote. That way we can put any device we want, TVs, surround sound systems, air conditioners, fireplaces, whatever. Here's our remote face. So far nothing, so we have to add. Our first button we're going to add, it's going to be a power button, so I'm going to change the icon to a power button. And it's kind of important to name it correctly so we can find it in the RM plugin. So I'm going to put TV power and save it. Okay, so drag it to wherever you want. Save. Now we have one button on our remote. First time you go to press it, it's going to want to learn.
I'll press the learn, if you can see it here. Learn. It's waiting. I will hit the power button. It says saved successfully. Now, oops. Now if I press the button, my TV came on. Okay, so the next step will be getting our settings from our phone or tablet onto our Android TV device. So we'll start by going up to this settings here, and you will find share in there. You will want to share this to other phones in the wireless LAN. Now to retrieve that on your Android TV, you will need Wi-Fi enabled, which mine's running off a cable so that I have better link for watching movies. So I'll turn off the cable, let it go over Wi-Fi. Now to retrieve the settings on the Android TV box, you go to the settings, you also go to share, but now this time you will hit import from shared phone in wireless LAN. After that you will have the same exact remote setup on your screen as you did on your tablet or phone.
Okay, once you have the eControl app installed on your Android TV, I would verify that it's working on there also. And then we are ready to configure the RM plugin, which also needs to be installed on the Android TV device. So I already have it installed. I'm going to bring it up here. First you need to enable the HTTP bridge so it can recognize commands sent over the internet. We'll enable it here. And it's going to say choose a web server port. You can leave that number, just write it down because you will need that later for your router settings. Next is you want to check auto start on boot. That way if your Android TV device ever gets shut off, when it reboots, this program will automatically run. You won't have to restart it. Now you can go to your code list down here, and with all the different buttons that you put in to the eControl app remote, they will all show up here, and you'll see ID numbers under each command. This is why you needed a description of each button so you know what to look for. So I would scroll down here, look for TV power, or whatever you called it, TV on off, and look for the ID number right below it. That's what you will need next. Okay, now that you have the RM plugin running on your Android TV box, it's time to give it a try to see if it works. First, you'll need the IP address for the Android TV box, because that's where the server is. To find that, you can either go back to that RM plugin app, go down to the HTTP bridge, click on that, and it will list in there the IP address of the box, or you could use the settings in your router, it doesn't matter. So let's bring up a browser. We'll type the IP address into the actual URL bar. You can't just type it into a Google search bar. And at the end of the IP address, you also need to have that port number, or it's not going to find that server. Okay, if you get this page, that means the RM plugin's working, because this is a web page actually served by the RM plugin on your Android TV device. So through this, we can actually send a URL to the device and see if it's working, make sure our TV power's on. So here you can see it says send a code. Scroll down, here's some examples. We can actually copy the whole example. I'm going to put it in new browser. Now at the end it says equals 1. And that code list on your RM plugin, those ID numbers, this is where you want them. If you only have one button, which was TV power on, then you know it's 1. But each button you create will have a different ID button. So we're going to go with this one. And all you have to do is go to that web page. And if you get this back, saying it successfully sent it, you know that it's working. And it also should have turned on or off the device that you created in the remote. Now you may notice that the IP address up here is what we call a local IP address, which means it's only IP addresses on the computer side of your router. Anything on the other side, the internet side, cannot access your computer with this IP. If you would type in what's my IP address into a Google search, you're going to end up with a different IP address, the one that connects you to the internet. So now what we need to do is set up your router so it can let through a web request from the internet through your router and route it to your Android TV device. Now a lot of you got different routers than I do, so I can't tell you how to set up your own, but you're going to have to do port forwarding, which you can do a Google search to find on your router. On mine, it's a Linksys. I type in 192.168.1.1. That's pretty common for a lot of Linksys ones. I went to my port forwarding page on the router, and here I type in RM plugin. I do that port number that's attached here at the end of the IP address. Protocol, you can do both. Now here for the IP address, you will use the IP address for your Android TV box. And then you want it to go to the same port on there. So what this means is, on the internet side, when somebody types in your IP address of your router, it will go through the router and it will get routed to the Android TV box. Once you have this successfully set up, to test it, you could take your cell phone, turn off the Wi-Fi, and now you could run this command, except here where you had an internal IP address, you would put your external IP address, which you can find by typing in what's my IP into a Google search. And then your command should work from outside of your local intranet. Once that is set up, and we know that you're receiving commands from the internet, we could actually set up our Google Home device to point to that IP address, and it would work. The only problem is after a while, could be a day, two, couple months, all of a sudden you're going to notice it quits working. That's because your internet provider keeps changing your IP address for you. It's called a dynamic IP instead of a static IP. So that's going to be a problem for you. So this is where the DNS account would come in. If you sign up for a free DNS account, they will give you a name, such as google.com has a name instead of typing in their IP address. You can put the name here instead of an IP address. I prefer to use a free DNS called No IP. You can sign up for an account here, and they will actually give you a little client that you download, and it will keep sending your IP address back to their website to update it for you. And then you can pick out whatever kind of name you want down here. Suppose you want to call it your computer, and since you're not paying for it, you don't get a big choice of names. You can pick something here. These are free ones. Tap 2 and hit sign up, and then this would be your new IP address that you would enter in the command line up here. Now I can't show you the whole thing, because if I give away the name for my IP, then everybody can turn on and off my lights. So you'll have to get that set up on your own. And then once that's set up, you will have a static name, even though your IP address keeps changing. And then now we can set up your Google Home device to send out to that name. Now that you have your Broadlink device working from the internet, now it's time to link your Google device to that so it will work. We're going to use IFTTT, which if you have a Google Home, you probably already are familiar with this website. It stands for if this then that. So the first thing you will need to do if it's your first time doing it is you'll have to link your Google device. So here you can type into a search Google, and you'll see Google Assistant. Go into the settings here, and you will have to add in your Google account, probably the same one that's on your phone with the Home app, to link it to this website. Now you can see I already have some made, but you're going to want to go to New Applet. It'll say if this, click on there. Again, type in Google. Okay, I think the internet was a little slow there. So if the Google Home receives a simple phrase, click on that. Let's say it's TV on. You can have a couple different ways of saying it. Turn the TV on, whatever. Then you can have it respond so you know it heard it with anything you type here. You'll create a trigger. Then what you want it to do. Here you type in web, and you'll see web hooks. Click on this. Now the URL that you typed into your browser from the internet side, you will paste that into here. This will stay as get. This you will pick the first application/JSON. You don't need a body, and you'll hit create action. Once your applet is saved, sometimes it takes a little while for this website to catch on. You might have to give it a few minutes, come back to it later. But now you can speak the phrase that you entered for the if this into your Google device, and it will trigger your URL, which then goes to your Broadlink device, and your TV should come on or off, or whatever your device was. once you have this working, then if you want, you can go into your Google Home app and you can click on the shortcuts and you can put different voice commands. It lets you enter like up to 5, I think. So for the if this then that website, you can just have one voice command, but then in your Google app, Home app, you can add as many different ways of saying the command you want to accomplish, such as TV on, living room TV on. That way you don't have to remember to say just one thing. I'm also going to try to post all the links that I used in the description. And of course, there'll probably be questions, something I left out or didn't describe good enough. And go ahead and just put them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them.